All right, it's time for Lombardi's Look Back. The day after the 49ers really tough loss to the Falcons, and a few days ahead of a showdown, a Super Bowl 54 rematch against the Kansas City Chiefs. It is prime time to talk about solutions. There are so many people that are ready to just talk about problems and made up problems. You can't even script some of this stuff that's going on right now. But I feel that 49ers media, 49ers fandom, whatever you want to call it, after a loss or even after a win, let's just call it how it is, it just gets on this roller coaster up and down, up and down. Watch, they're going to beat the Chiefs this weekend, kind of like how they beat the Rams last year in week 10, coming off the loss against the Cardinals. And everybody's going to be coronating them as a Super Bowl contender, a Super Bowl lock. Then they could lose the following week against the Rams, and everybody is going to be ready to go off the ledge again. And we just can't have this extremely erratic behavior emotionally after every single game if we're interested in logically analyzing where the 49ers must improve, where they're already good, and how they can reach the ultimate prize. So Lombardi's Look Back is all about a rational, pragmatic look at what happened yesterday and what's going on in the larger context of the season so that the 49ers can fix it, or fix at least what they need to ahead of this coming showdown against the Chiefs. This is the article that I just wrote up on The Athletic. 49ers had drive-killing mistakes, questionable coaching moves in the loss to the Falcons. And here's what I wrote after the game in Atlanta yesterday, how the 49ers' own formula was used against them in the loss to the Falcons. And I'm actually going to use that theme to open up this show and our discussion about how the 49ers can find solutions. Because the truth is that the 49ers got Shanahaned by the Atlanta Falcons. Their opponent, not the 49ers, ran 40 times, ran for 168 yards, only passed 14 times, controlled the football for 33 minutes, controlled the possession and turnover battle, right? 3-0, effectively 2-0 for the Falcons in this game yesterday. That was what the 49ers under Shanahan strived to do to their opponents. Instead, this time, it happened to the 49ers. So they got Shanahan, and that leads us to the next question. Why did the 49ers get Shanahan? And the simple answer is because they couldn't stop the run, and they couldn't run themselves. So we have to address both of these reasons when we analyze how the 49ers might be able to find solutions for what happened yesterday. And lose me with the, oh, they can't find solutions talk. You have evidence that's less than a year old that suggests that the 49ers can and will find solutions. Last year against the Arizona Cardinals in week 9, this 49ers team looked horrific. They lost 31-17, the same margin of defeat as yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons. And a week later, the 49ers turned it around against the eventual Super Bowl champion Rams with a 31-10 win on Monday Night Football. They ripped off wins in 5 of 6 games, and they ended up making it all the way to the NFC Championship game with a worse roster than they have this season. So lose me with the, oh, the season's over stuff. Again, that is emotional roller coaster stuff that I talked about at the top of the show. It is not productive to analysis. The 49ers could very well lose the rest of their games this year. If we're looking at this in a non-biased fashion, fine. They could very well lose the rest of their games this year. But that is not the probable outcome here. And neither is this team going on a prolonged losing stretch as long as they stay reasonably healthy. And it looks like they might return to a reasonable level of health this week against the Chiefs. So, I mean, anything is possible, but taking an extreme position of negativity or positivity after every week might get you some clicks, but it's not going to get you to the truth. And here we're going to look at the truth. And the truth of the situation is the 49ers got Shanahan. We're going to ask why they got Shanahan. We'll have the answer to that. And now we're going to look into the possible explanations for the reasons that they got Shanahan. So one is they couldn't stop the run. So the key to stopping the run for the 49ers is to figure out the defensive tackle situation. And I talked about that a little bit more in this piece right now. But the truth and the ugly truth here yesterday was that the 49ers, who are down Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw at defensive tackle. They're two big, long, strong defensive tackles who can control opposing run games, especially in a wide 9 context, because the 49ers are really elongated to allow their edge rushers to get after the quarterback. The defensive tackles have to have explosiveness and length at the same time. 49ers don't have their top two guys. They lost DJ Jones. He's now with the Denver Broncos. So in a way, you can say they don't have their top three guys from at least the start of the 2021 season. The 49ers have to figure out this position because yesterday, Hassan Ridgeway, Akeem Spence, Kevin Givens, all lower center of gravity guys, not as tall, right, as your Javon Kinlaws, as your Eric Armsteads. All three of these players really struggled against the run. I asked Kyle Shanahan, what do you think of your defensive tackle play in the run game? And Shanahan, instead of saying, oh, they're okay, or, giving me some kind of BS answer, literally said, we got worn down. The first three words out of his mouth were, we got worn down. And that, my friends, is a clear-cut indicator that the 49ers share my analysis of this defensive tackle position, what the reserves did against Atlanta. A good Atlanta offensive line, anchored by Drew Dahlman in the middle, the son of former 49ers center Chris Dahlman. The 49ers weren't good enough on the inside. And I talk about this wide nine scheme needing those long, explosive players on the inside. The problem is that it's really hard to find long, explosive, competent defensive tackles because that's just not how the body type of the position works, right? Normally, they're going to be lower to the ground. And that's why the 49ers scheme needs top-level blue chip talent to operate that position successfully on the inside. Javon Kinlaw, former first-round pick. Eric Armstead, former first-round pick. You get these lower center of gravity guys, and they don't quite give you that length and the explosiveness that you'll need. And it shouldn't be surprising that they don't. So the 49ers need to figure out this defensive tackle situation ASAP. There's a reason why the first question that I asked Kyle Shanahan today was about this position. And there's a reason why the first thing that I wrote today and talked about today on another video was, what can the 49ers do to bolster the room? There are a couple of options, in my opinion. And I asked Shanahan about Eric Armstead's availability today, and he said that he'd be very surprised if Armstead came back against the Chiefs. So that makes this a rather critical thing that the 49ers need to fix, maybe from the outside. And there are a couple of outside options, and one of them is actually technically in the building, but he's outside of the specific defensive tackle position. The first option might be Ndamukong Suh. He's still a free agent. I know that he's aging, but I think that he has that length that the 49ers would need. He's got that 6'4" height that the 49ers need to operate this scheme at that position. He has played for Chris Kasarik before, so he knows, that they came up under Chris Kasarik in Detroit. He should be able to operate within the parameters of a wide nine scheme. I do not, however, know the type of shape that Suh might be in, and I do recognize that he's at the tail end of his career. That is why he is currently unsigned. If the 49ers don't want to go to the outside, if they believe that they have what it takes within their own building, maybe moving Nick Bosa inside is something that the 49ers will have to do, at least before Eric Armstead comes back. Because the performance yesterday was not good enough against Atlanta from Ridgeway, from Givens, from Akeem Spence. T.Y. McGill's also on this team. He's a practice squatter. Maybe the 49ers call him up moving forward. And listen, the Atlanta Falcons, I think, present a relatively unique challenge to the 49ers in that they can deliver the type of rushing attack creatively and personnel-wise that the 49ers torment their opponents with. Right? You have Drew Dahlman at that center position, cerebral, really good at the run game. Drew Dahlman can really move. He had a really high athleticism score coming out of college at Stanford. They have two good offensive tackles in Jake Matthews and Caleb McGarry. All of this is significant stuff. The Falcons have a good offensive line, and they love to run the football, and they're extremely committed to it. And it's not very likely that the 49ers will face another opponent that is as committed to running as the Atlanta Falcons are. So maybe the 49ers can get away with a little bit less out of their defensive tackle position in other games, but you can bet the teams who saw the tape that the Falcons put on against the 49ers are going to try to replicate at least a little bit of that. I know that the Kansas City Chiefs love to pass the ball with Patrick Mahomes, but you can bet that they saw that the 49ers defensive tackles struggled against the run without Eric Armstead, without Javon Kinlaw. And for that reason, I think that the 49ers do need to make sure they bolster that interior, especially if they start getting more run-heavy doses from other teams. And maybe moving Nick Bosa on to the inside in these passing situations is what the 49ers must end up doing. You can only unleash your pass rush and rush the quarterback if you stop the other team's opposing run game. I always say you have to earn the right to rush the passer. The 49ers did not earn the right to rush the passer in this past game against the Atlanta Falcons. They got pushed back too often on the interior. Shanahan agrees with that. I don't think you can watch the game without agreeing with that, and it's something that the 49ers have to fix. All right, so that is the solution for part one. Can the 49ers do that? Can they strengthen the defensive tackle position? Can they get Armstead back sooner rather than later? Kinlaw maybe after the next 3 games, right? He's already been out 1 now on injured reserve. How are they going to cross the bridge of having a weaker defensive tackle position? I think that is absolutely key number 1, because that is a component of how the 49ers got out Shanahan in this game. But how can they execute the flip side? How can the 49ers run the ball themselves? Well, the key to running the ball for the 49ers is the control game flow. You have to limit the turnovers. You have to limit the drops. Yesterday, they got right behind the 8 ball, especially after the Jeff Wilson fumble, because that turned into an Atlanta touchdown. They're down 14-0. 49ers only had 16 rushing attempts on this game. Atlanta had 40. Again, that's what the 49ers usually do to teams. They usually have the 40-plus rush attempts if they're playing well. The other team can only run 16 times. That allows the 49ers defensive line to tee off in pass-happy situations, and everything ends up being a downhill effort for them. Well, it was an uphill effort for the 49ers yesterday because they only had those 16 rushes. They were playing from behind. There are way too many drops. There was at least one key penalty against Jake Brendel that nullified a bomb from Jimmy Garoppolo, a perfectly thrown bomb from Jimmy Garoppolo to Brandon Ayuk, and that stalled the 49ers in their tracks. I think the drops were the most damaging thing in this game on Sunday. You obviously had Ray McLeod. You obviously had Charlie Werner. I think you had Brandon Ayuk on a slant as well, although that wasn't as bad of a drop. It wasn't a perfectly thrown ball by Jimmy Garoppolo. But nevertheless, the 49ers left way too many execution opportunities out on the field, despite the fact that their quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, played well, and a makeshift offensive line in front of him played well. And, we'll talk about Garoppolo in a little bit, but let's talk about the 49ers offensive line. Trent Williams might be back next week. The 49ers certainly hope that he is against the Kansas City Chiefs. Mike McGlinchey might be back next week. The 49ers also certainly hope that he comes back. But the 49ers played this game against Atlanta, and I thought they got good enough pass protection against the Falcons, even without their 2 starting tackles, because Daniel Brunskill played on the right side at tackle for the first time since 2019. One of my big questions, and this is something I'm going to try to find out this week in the 49ers facility, is why has Daniel Brunskill only been working at interior line positions ever since 2019 up until this past week? He started working at tackle again on Wednesday, and the 49ers ended up using him at right tackle when Blake Hance didn't cut it in immediate relief of Mike McGlinchey. And I've been questioning this for years. It's been 3 seasons, right, since 2019, when Brunskill was actually really good at the tackle spot. He'd be out there as a former college tight end, mind you, on the exterior, moving well, delivering the blocks the 49ers needed, and succeeding in pass protection. As a former college tight end, it makes more sense that Daniel Brunskill would be better out in space as a tackle than he would as a guard. Yet the 49ers insisted at playing him at guard in 2020, 2021, and the beginning of this 2022 season. They finally had their hand forced yesterday, and they had to move Brunskill to right tackle. And I do think that that is his natural position. That's just my opinion. I'm going to try to find out why the 49ers haven't thought so over the course of the past few years, because his best metrics have indeed come at the tackle spot, and those were back in 2019. But there's more going on with this 49ers offensive line besides where Daniel Brunskill plays at depth. The return of Trent Williams obviously is something that must be monitored this season. But, just as that's happening, we're paying close attention to how the young guys, the law firm, I like to call them, on the interior of the offensive line are doing against powerful defensive tackles. And Atlanta's Grady Jarrett had only one pressure yesterday. The 49ers, I thought, actually won the battle on the interior against Grady Jarrett and company. And that's huge because they haven't in the past consistently won that battle. They gave up 6 pressures to Jarrett in 2019, two more to Jarrett in 2021, but only one in this game yesterday. And I talked to Spencer Burford in the locker room after the game, and he said that the 49ers ran a lot of slide protection to try to neutralize the mono-a-mono advantage that Grady Jarrett would have. But you can't take away from the fact that Burford only gave up 1 pressure, that Aaron Banks surrendered a clean sheet, which means he surrendered nothing in pass protection for the first time in his career. In fact, Aaron Banks, everybody was talking about him being a bust and all this and all that. He hasn't given up a single sack yet in this season. And guess who? The guy that he replaced, Laken Tomlinson, has given up his share of sacks for the New York Jets. So Aaron Banks is playing really good football for the 49ers at that left guard position. And Jake Brendel is playing better than people are giving him credit for. He still ranks in the top 7 in ESPN's pass block win rate. And I think that Brendel's one of those guys that's following a very solid center for the 49ers and Alex Mack. And because of that, fans are not treating him very fairly, very objectively in the way that he's playing. But Brendel, that was a clean sheet for him in pass protection yesterday. Yes, he had a costly holding penalty on a drive where he had a couple penalties. It was the holding penalty that was truly costly. I watched the tape of it. Brendel got tangled up. He fell down. Pass rusher that was coming straight at him with the bull rush fell down on top of him, and the official thought that Brendel might have dragged that pass rusher down. He might have dragged him down. I'm not sure. I can't tell from the angle that I've seen so far. Hopefully I get some more angles as the week progresses. But the truth is that Brendel didn't have a single pressure given up to his name. It was just that one penalty. And he has a good pass block win rate here throughout 6 49ers games. To me, Jake Brendel's not the problem for the 49ers, and they're going to have to hope that he isn't because Daniel Brunskill might have to play tackle, and Brunskill is their backup center. But the O-line, to me, did a good job protecting Jimmy Garoppolo yesterday, which makes it probably for 49ers fans even more frustrating that they couldn't score in the second half because their QB was playing well. We can get back to that right now. Sunday was not Garoppolo's fault, and the offensive line in front of him was also decent. It came down to the drops for the 49ers, right? Those 2 big drops and that Jeff Wilson fumble, which was a massive swing. The 49ers, if they convert that first down, might be able to take that down the field and score a touchdown or at least score 3 points. Instead, that goes in Atlanta's favor, 7 points with the fumble, scoop score, and return. So these, to me, these are all fixable errors, and it is a tremendous, not only oversimplification, but an overreaction and a non-factual statement to say that Jimmy Garoppolo was the 49ers' problem in this game against the Falcons. In fact, Jimmy Garoppolo posted his best accuracy since surgery against the Atlanta Falcons. I could read to you from the quarterback section of this article right here on The Athletic, and I'll just read this to you, and I'll put this smaller on the screen, but you can go ahead and check this piece out. I'll put the link into the comment section here in a little bit, but here I go. Sunday was Garoppolo's most accurate performance since his offseason shoulder surgery. Had Ray McLeod and Charlie Werner both caught the excellent downfield passes that they dropped, Garoppolo would have registered a completion rate of over 75%. On NFL Next Gen Stats Advanced Scale, that would have been 3.5 points above expectation, or good for a top 3 clip in the league if extrapolated over the full season. So we have an objective measure that says that Garoppolo's accuracy in this game on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons would have been a top 3 accuracy figure, which is an improvement, right, week over week after the disaster in Denver in week 3. So Garoppolo shows up, starts for the first time against Denver, is terribly inaccurate, has a terrible game. Everybody freaks out. Everybody says, oh, the 49ers are in real trouble. But I think, more rational observers sat back and said, oh, hey, hold on. He didn't have an offseason. He's coming off shoulder surgery. He's talking about rust. Give him a few weeks. Well, ever since those few weeks, Garoppolo has been fine, and he's moved from fine to actually really good, top 3 accuracy this past game against the Atlanta Falcons. Let me read some more. The chief takeaway is that Garoppolo, whose accuracy was erratic to start this season, is clearly trending in the right direction with more time in this 49ers offense. He's also proving capable of hitting deeper shots that can diversify Shanahan's schematic offerings. As the 49ers work to unlock offensive consistency, they can take solace in the fact that their quarterback, though he wasn't perfect, has now delivered solid outings in 3 straight games. That is the rational take on Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not, oh, let's blame the quarterback on everything that goes wrong in a loss and then praise him endlessly after everything that goes right in a win. You have to take a fair and balanced approach. And I firmly believe that the article that I just put up into your chat section and is already in the comment section, comments, well, it's already in the description. It will be in the comment section after this game. I firmly believe that it's handled this Garoppolo situation in a fair way amidst a total hailstorm, a total crap storm of people just trying to get clicks by unnecessarily criticizing Jimmy Garoppolo. And yesterday definitely wasn't the day to do that. He was accurate. He was solid. He most certainly was not the problem for the 49ers in this game against the Atlanta Falcons. That was his best one so far of this season. How, let's slightly change topics, but Jimmy Garoppolo's throwing to Deebo Samuel a lot here. How about Deebo Samuel? As a wide receiver yesterday, he forced 9 missed tackles. There's only one player in the entire rest of the NFL who has forced more over the whole season, over 6 games, and that's Cooper Kupp from the Rams. It was forced 13. Samuel has forced 20 missed tackles on the season. That's either by juke or by running somebody over. He usually prefers the latter. And 9 of those 20 came on Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. Remember, the Falcons struggled to tackle Deebo Samuel last year. That was their A.J. Terrell, Deebo Samuel knocks out his mouth guard game. And this year they had another series of bad encounters against Deebo Samuel and against George Kittle. Richie Grant, the safety for the Atlanta Falcons, really bore the brunt of 2 pancake hits when those players had the ball. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, I talk about the run defense being a problem for the 49ers. They're obviously also beaten up in the secondary, and that turned into an issue for them against the Atlanta Falcons. And I talk about this in the article. Remember to make sure that you check this out. But Samuel Womack, he's the rookie cornerback. The reason the 49ers needed to thrust him into the game is because Charvarius Ward got hurt, right? So Emmanuel Moseley got hurt the week before. He's going to undergo surgery here in a couple weeks once the ACL swelling in his knee goes down. But Moseley got hurt. We were wondering who the 49ers would tap to succeed Moseley at that starting cornerback position opposite Charvarius Ward. A lot of people thought, maybe Ambry Thomas will get this job. Yet others thought that the rookie Samuel Womack would get the job. But the 49ers ended up moving Deommodore Lenoir from their starting nickelback spot to the starting outside cornerback spot. And by moving Lenoir, the 49ers opened up nickelback, and Dante Johnson took over at nickelback. Johnson is obviously a veteran. However, then Charvarius Ward got hurt. So when Ward got hurt, the 49ers had Lenoir at one cornerback spot, Womack not anywhere yet, sorry. Dante Johnson at the other nickelback spot, and an empty cornerback spot opposite Lenoir. So they thrust Samuel Womack III into there, the rookie who everybody's really excited about, following that really good preseason performance with 2 interceptions against the Packers. It all sounded great up until Womack started getting roasted. First, he gave up a touchdown catch to Kyle Pitts where he gave up inside leverage. That wasn't good. And then he played the run exceptionally poorly on a read option where Marcus Mariota faked the handoff. Womack essentially froze, bit on that fake handoff, and Mariota beat a guy that has nearly 4.3 speed. Womack is in the low 4.4s to the corner. That just shows how badly Samuel Womack was fooled on the play. So Womack really struggled to the point where in the red zone on those key plays, he was a liability for the 49ers. And it makes me wonder, where's Ambry Thomas? Because Ambry Thomas played some big moments for this 49ers team last season. Yet he still has not seen significant game action outside of special teams for this defense. And you have to wonder, is Ambry Thomas going to make his debut in this game against Kansas City if the 49ers don't get Charvarius Ward back? The good news is that Ward is day-to-day with his groin injury, so there's a very good shot that he will be back. But the 49ers have to start thinking about the depth behind Womack if Womack is going to deliver the kind of performances that he did on those big plays in the red zone against the Atlanta Falcons. All right, so those are 49ers solutions. I think I just went through essentially everything that I wanted to go through, but I'm sure there's going to be a little bit more. So I'll take a few questions now. We'll call it a 49ers Q&A here as we go through some of what you guys are asking. You want the 49ers to bring back Jason Verrett? Well, that's a possibility this week, but Verrett's knee was sore last week, so we'll have to wait to see how it feels at practice. That's going to start on Wednesday. Mike says that Jimmy G has been balling. That is very true. Garoppolo's been good. Again, the problem certainly wasn't Garoppolo as much as some people want to make it to be Garoppolo. It was kind of like week 9 last year against Arizona. The problem wasn't Garoppolo, it was everything else. And if your quarterback has got things right, there's a good chance that you could turn things around. Right? Last year at 3-5, a worse record than the 49ers have now. The 49ers were able to turn things around. And one of the precursors of them turning things around is that Garoppolo played really well in the 2 weeks prior to them beating the Rams. Garoppolo played really well against Chicago in week 8 last year, and that was a win. And in Arizona, week 9, in a loss. People didn't give him credit for the loss because they too closely associate the final score with how they evaluate a quarterback's play. But Jimmy was more than fine against Arizona. And then that extended to the game against the Rams. Will his good play and a loss extend to the game against the Chiefs? That's why we're sticking around to find out. Jason asks, do the 49ers have any chance against the Chiefs with the inconsistencies surrounding the team? Yes, the 49ers absolutely have a chance against the Chiefs because Kansas City doesn't play great defense. And we've seen potential for the 49ers offense. We've just seen execution errors get in the way. But if the 49ers solve these execution errors, if they take care of the drops, if Garoppolo keeps on playing well, if they don't fumble the football away, they can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. They can score with the Chiefs, especially if the defense for the 49ers gets key pieces like Nick Bosa back. Then you expect to hold the Chiefs into 20s at the very worst, and you hope to score in the upper 20s if you're the 49ers offense. And I think all of that stuff is absolutely on the table based on what we've seen. Mike asks, how do the 49ers limit Travis Kelce? That's the age-old question here. They tried to put a safety on him for a while there in the Super Bowl. Didn't work when Tarvarius Moore was that 49ers third defensive back and Kelce drew that big flag near the end zone. The linebackers probably aren't quite fast enough for Travis Kelce, so he has created the ultimate tight end mismatch. That's why he goes to tight end U every year, kind of like how George Kittle forms a mismatch. So you focus on Travis Kelce. You get after Patrick Mahomes with the pass rush to make sure that Kelce's route tree can't get too big because you'd rather hit the quarterback before then, and you just go to war. You take maybe one of your bigger safeties, maybe Talanoa Hufanga could be a better coverage guy against Kelce, or at least in some kind of bracket coverage, can help you neutralize this freak of nature that Kansas City has at the tight end position. But you do have to be creative because Travis Kelce is a really, really good player. Roy says that Shanahan wants Super Bowl, or Jimmy Garoppolo wants Super Bowl revenge on Kansas City. I'm sure he does. And maybe we'll see the 49ers play a really sharp game offensively as a result. You want Kittle to get the seam plays and not Charlie Werner. Yes, you can do that. But also one of the reasons that Charlie Werner is open on a seam play is because he's Charlie Werner and not George Kittle. George Kittle is going to draw more defensive attention, and you have to throw to where the attention isn't, at least occasionally. And yesterday, there wasn't attention on Ray McCloud, and there wasn't attention on Charlie Werner. Garoppolo threw 2 perfect passes, and they were both dropped. Mitchell and Ness says, rushing players back just for the Chiefs is not smart. It's desperation that only set the players back even more. Who says the 49ers are rushing these guys back? Maybe these guys are just on track to be back in time for the Chiefs. I don't think there's any indication the 49ers are rushing players back. If they were, the one that they would really want to rush back is Eric Armstead, given what happened this week. Well, if you want to watch Mason play, you're going to have to watch him on special teams because that's where he is right now. What's my take on the 49ers winning the NFC West so far? All right, let's talk a little bit about the NFC West. 49ers, to me, are clearly the best team in the division so far. They are tied in the standings as far as win-loss record goes with the Cardinals, who are all with the Seahawks, who are also 3-3, and the Rams, who are also 3-3. The Cardinals are behind everybody at 2-4. But my take on the NFC West, after what we've seen so far, is that the 49ers are the only team with a positive point differential in the entire division. They're the most balanced, potentially the most balanced team in the entire division. We'll see how this team matures and how the injury situation allows the 49ers to operate. But I think that much is clear. Those two things are clear. And I've already seen the 49ers beat the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, and that gives them technically the leg up in any potential tiebreaker, although we still have many, many more games to play. But all the teams in the division are flawed. The Rams have fallen off a cliff in terms of pass protection since losing Andrew Whitworth, and Matthew Stafford is not the same quarterback. Pass protection, it turns out, does actually matter. They've also lost their top edge rusher in Von Miller, and the defense is nowhere near as good. We saw that when the Rams visited the 49ers. The Cardinals, they just lost Hollywood Brown for, I think, 6 weeks, but they made the trade for Robbie Anderson, which makes it nice that the 49ers do have Charvarius Ward on a day-to-day status because he just shut down Robbie Anderson when Anderson was playing for the Carolina Panthers. So the Cardinals, to me, they're leaking oil and they're in desperation mode, and they made a trade to try to stop leaking oil and try to get back into this thing. Finally, the Seahawks. They're an enigma to me. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, they just beat the Cardinals by 10. They held them to 9 points. The 49ers kicked the Seahawks' ass a few weeks ago, but Geno Smith is playing better and better, it seems, as this season goes along. So, to me, Seattle, December 15th, that might, if the Seahawks continue on their current trajectory, that might be a game that helps determine the division. And even if the Seahawks don't, they'll be able to play spoiler at home against the 49ers. But right now, I would handicap the 49ers as the favorite in the NFC West. And that, I think, is the formula. Win the weak NFC West while resting injured players for the playoffs. I mean, to a certain extent, you rest guys, but you got to have guys playing. If guys are seriously hurt, guys want to push through something when they shouldn't be, you can still do that if you're the 49ers because you're in first place right now, even at 3-3. Raul says, I hope that the Rams don't end up with Christian McCaffrey, but maybe the 49ers do end up with him. One thing about Christian McCaffrey is that he would come affordable this year in terms of the salary cap. Only has a $1.035 million base salary, which is the NFL veteran minimum for this season. The signing bonus money, that all has to be paid on the cap by the Carolina Panthers. So McCaffrey might be in play. The Panthers want multiple first-round picks. I don't think they're getting any for Christian McCaffrey. Bill O'Brien is no longer a head coach in this league. So in that situation, I don't think that the running back position would be that overvalued. But I think the 49ers will kick the tires here because Carolina obviously holding a fire sale with Robbie Anderson being traded to the NFC West and the Arizona Cardinals. All right, guys, good stuff. I've been on for a little bit more than 30 minutes. Make sure to check out this article right here. 49ers had drive-killing mistakes, questionable coaching, and the loss to the Falcons. And this one right here, how the 49ers' own formula was used against them in the loss to the Falcons. I could put this second one up as well into the chat section. That was from after the game yesterday, but both of them, or maybe just one, we'll see how I feel, will be up in the description of this video and then pinned to the top of the comment section. So make sure to check it out. Remember, this conversation was about talking 49ers solutions. That's what we have to do right now. We're not going to be into the clickbait. We're not going to be into the emotional roller coaster too far into either direction, too depressed after the 49ers lose or too elated after they win. We're talking practical football and the ways that the 49ers can do that. Well, I can just summarize right here. They got Shanahan. They need to figure out why they got Shanahan, and that's because they couldn't run and they couldn't stop the run. So the way that you stop the rushing bleeding on defense is Maybe you bring somebody in like Ndamukong Suh, or maybe you shift Bosa to the inside on some of those running downs. And the key to actually running the football is control game flow. Play that cohesive offense. Jimmy Garoppolo was not the problem in that regard. He hasn't been that problem since the Denver game as he's knocked the rust off. So you have to find where the issues lie, and that is through the drops. It's through the drops, through the fumbles. You have to control game flow by playing ahead. So critical for the 49ers to play ahead given their style. All right, everybody, take care. Hope you liked the video. Hit that thumbs up button if you did, and enjoy the rest of your night, because if you do subscribe, you're going to have a better night. That's just the way that it works. Everybody take care. Have a good rest of your Monday.